I got to tell you a story. My late wife and I, Vanna Ray, we lived 2 years in New Zealand, and we decided not to go back to urban life. We were looking for 20 acres. We went through 3,600 miles in 1 month. And then we saw this property, and nobody wanted it. The trees were tiny little bitty things, and people tried to raise cattle, and they ran sheep, and the mountain lions ate all the sheep, and the cattle died. And the only people that were out here were the pot growers. So we come out and we bought 240 acres for $45,000. But we had no money. So then we're looking around, how are we gonna pay? See, we bought the land and had no idea how we were gonna pay for it. We were, for 2 months, we were walking around and what are we gonna do next? We had no money. So I said, Vanna Ray, look, this place grows trees, so why don't we grow Christmas trees? These are old trees. Now, a seedling costs 5 cents. So we bought 10,000 seedlings the first year. We said, we can always sell a Christmas tree for $1, and $1 will buy a loaf of bread. There's a beauty right there. That one there will be a nice one. Yeah. You're looking for symmetry. Now you cut that off right about 4 or 5 feet up, and that'll make a beautiful Christmas tree. I could cultivate these. Oh God, I sold 2,000 of those 1 year. So these are the clone. Now the parent of the clone is this big tree. So that was the mother tree. Now look here. That's a Douglas fir of my own clone. And that's 1 out of 20,000 that had super characteristics for Christmas tree. And I did 4,000 clones of that. And so they sold like crazy because they look like nobles, but they were Douglas fir, and they grew 2 years less to get them to full size. So this whole area, and it went way down, half a mile that way, and it was all full of Christmas trees. 10,500 going at one time. So for 1 month, 16 hours a day with a machete, I'm going, whoo, and I go right to the tip, and I cut the tip, and I whip it. I go, whoo, 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 probably about 20 strokes per tree, on about 2,000, 3,000 big trees and 10,000 small ones. So anyway, we're on the land, and we looked at this, and Vanna Ray and I said, how could we own it? I said, we can't own it. So look, why don't we set up ourselves as being the best stewards? Let's be the ones that we've been given the privilege of taking care of this, and let's do the best we can to enhance the forest and grow gardens. Come on in, I'll show you. I'm doing some experimental stuff. The world of today, 8-hour jobs, 10-hour jobs, all these fancy cars and stuff, you don't need them. You know, you get a pick and a shovel and dig a garden, and it's cheap. Now this is Brussels sprouts. Yeah. I cut the main stem off, and this is a sucker. I'm eating sprouts off of the sucker. And this tomato died on me. I'm still eating some of those crummy tomatoes. This is a broccoli, and that's a second, you see, off of the old stub. And then there's lettuce. Now we could have a wonderful salad. I got some really nice butter crunch lettuce. There's last year's bell peppers. This zucchini, I'm just starting now, so I have to hand pollinate these. We just don't have enough for bees to come in. So see, that's almost ready to harvest. I need to come in and do some watering here. Boy, everything needs watering. We got hot today. So here we go. See, this is a crookneck zucchini. When these get old, I have a second crop coming up. Now we have to pollinate these. So you have to have the male and the female. So this is the male with the pistil. So that's all full of pollen. And then you have to find a female. Then you open up that and you just poke it around there, and the pollen fertilizes it. So this is a potato here. This is the Italian variety of kale. I really love it. Everybody is trained to be a consumer. And the whole thing, from day one, you're kind of into a system that's trying to be foreign to the real life of living, which means doing for yourself. You know, we went 3 months without ever shopping. So between garden and canning, I'm eating plums that I canned 10 years ago.
Wow, 3 months without shopping.
Yeah, and you know what? Our lifestyle didn't change one iota. See, we had goats and chickens. We had 600 quarts of canned food. We had 150 pounds of dried food. We had cheese and yogurt and acidophilus, all kinds of food all the time, and of all kinds. Look, you ready? Look what I got. You won't believe the taste of a fresh potato like that. Isn't that beautiful? You can't compare it at all to store-bought.
Hey.
And you know, look how thin the skin is.
Oh, yeah.
See, it just peels right off.
Why is that?
Well, it's young. It's coming right out of the ground. As it sits out, it gets old and it loses some of that tenderness. That is so sweet, it's almost like sugar. You just can't imagine the difference. So these are beets. See, the world of today with the computer and whatnot, it's foreign to nature. Get down to earth and actually with your hands producing your own food and eating the food that you actually produce. I mean, there's so much fun in that. And then you know you're doing something useful because it's your own food. And we eat the tops as well. The world is so foreign out there. So somebody has to wake you up and redirect your attention to something more real.
How did you get interested in even coming out to, like, what made you and Vanna Ray think we want to come live so far remotely from cities and towns?
Well, okay. It started when we were in New Zealand deciding to come back. So we said, look, do we want to go back to urban life? We said no. We were out of Santa Rosa and we had seen the growth from San Francisco and we saw buildings cluttering. So I didn't want to get into architecture and be a part of taking away good growing land and putting it into construction and buildings. I want to show you something here. I don't know if we had this working. You see the reflection pool, it needed water in it, and then I put some black in it. So it's strictly reflection. See the reflection? Come down where I'm at.
Thanks.
Look at the mountain. Go back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that cool? It's another dimension of watching the trees.
Do you think that you have to find ways to make yourself aware of your environment?
The problem is that most people don't see it. See, the problem is that the environment is so big that you can't see the forest for the trees. So you need to isolate. So you know what I tell them to do? Take your hand like this and compose right with your hand and move it around. You don't have to have a camera and say, oh, that's cool. Composition is everything, whether it's photography, architecture, sculpture, music. For instance, this wall is made out of parts. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll see vertical, you'll see 1, 2, you'll see circles. So everything here has been calculated more or less. So the parts make up the whole. Okay, we can look at trees. It could be one tree and you see one beauty. But if you see a whole symphony of trees, then it's a music of a symphony rather than just a note. So these are notes. Boom, 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 boom. Those are notes. But when you put them all together, you got a symphony.
So you think some people can read that music and some people cannot?
No, well, there's a thing called udito. In Italian, udito. You're born with a sense. Udito is what you're born with, the gift. But then that gift has to be developed. Let's go up to the studio. Come on up.
Was it hard for you to move into something like this when you had this much bigger?
This is convenient. See, now that you have to go outside to the refrigerator. I got it right here. And then I have this, my food and everything are right here.
Yeah.
And so then here's my stove and here's my sink. No matter how hot it is, a fire to me is really, really important. So every morning, I come out here and I have a little hatchet. I chop up the wood this is to start the fire. And then I come over here, I'll demonstrate how I do a fire in the morning. This is Charlie Bello way of lighting a fire. So I come over to the stove and I light the stove. And I light my firewood. I get my kindling going. We get this fire going real good. Now we can go over to the fire, and then I already have the kindling burning, and I control it by this vent and this one, and I'm heating hot water. So every morning I take a hot water shower while I'm heating up the room.
I see it's connected.
This is a baffle that's full of water, and it goes to the water heater that's in here. So the hot water comes off the top and goes to the top, and the cold water comes off the bottom. You don't need a motor. It's called thermosiphon. Actually, the hot water expands and it displaces the cold water, sort of like convection, like air.
Did you design the stove yourself?
Oh yeah, I got 5 or 6 of them. You know, it's crude. It's not really fancy, but
Just all you need, right?
oh well, look, this spacious. Now that's what I sleep on. That is the ugliest bed, and it's the most comfortable bed you could imagine. This is an old chair. I made this bed up out of an old chair. It's just crummy. There's an old chair, and I put plywood on it. I mean, it's ugly as can be, but I have a sleeping disorder, apnea. They want me to have a breathing machine and all that. So if I sleep where my head is up, I'm fine. So I'm here, and I get to wake up, and I get to see my wildlife. You have no idea. I wake up in the morning like I've got 1,000,000 jewels on that tree. I'm sitting there, and then the breeze is waving, and all these gems are just floating around. I mean, it's like awesome. You can't believe it. But then snow, wake up and seeing snow on the branches. And it's a great view because I'm looking at the close, and then I got the background. I got a middle ground, and then I got a background. So I get to see the mountains through the trees and not just out there in a view where you look blasting out. And then I got this nice big tree, and I got the madrone here. So I wake up, and it's great to watch the morning break and kind of just be a part of that. If I had a bed here, I never would have gotten the, you know, it's nice to have a bed, by the way, right up at window level. Because if you're in the forest, then you wake up and you don't have to get up to look out the window. You just wake up and your head's just right there. So I'm here all the time. Now, I got animals come down all the time. The turkey comes down, the deer come down, and the doors, when they're even partly open, for instance, I'll show you. I have the doors like this, and the deer will walk right in. And I says, no, I don't want you in here. He turns around and walks out. The turkey comes up, and he's trying to come in. I said, no, no, no. And I get him to turn around and walk out. I had a big buck like this with about 6 points on each side. And he would lie down right here. I have an affectionate relationship with this guy. He would eat out of my hands. He would let me hold his antlers. I believe that humans can have relationship with all kinds of animals. But the humans have to bring themselves to the level and not be superior to the animal. So this is turkey food, tapioca. My turkey loves it. I come out here and I sprinkle out a little tapioca and he just loves it. Boy, he's so sharp. He can pick, he go pop, 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 pop. He picks these things up as fast as you can throw them out. What I do is let nature tell me what to do. Now, you can't do that in a city. You got a block, there's no trees, you don't have many options. Nature can't talk to you. But when you're out here, for instance, that was instantaneous. That was 20 seconds to design that building because I didn't design it. It was already designed. All I had to do is, I call it calculated intuition. Intuitively, I knew the orientation, I knew the wind, I knew the cost, I know the building material, I knew what I could do. And so intuitively, the whole thing came together without even thinking about it. Mm-hmm. I've done 5 of these. I'll show you one that I did, the mother of that one there. Here's the Manzanita house. This house is 120 feet long. And it goes like this and waves and waves. It had 96 pieces of glass in the house. It's sitting on an earthquake fault. And not one, the earthquake shook everything in the cupboards, fell out on the floor. And that's how hard it shook. Never broke one piece of glass. Broken glass all over the town of Santa Rosa. Not one piece of glass broke on this. 96 pieces of glass in this house.
Why do you think that?
Oh, I know exactly why.
Why?
Earthquake is a function of how much weight and how high it is. One way you deal with earthquake, you make it rigid. So when the earthquake, it's rigid, so it doesn't. The other way, if it's loose and rattly, it just goes woo, and it dances with the earthquake. So the roof is going like this, but it's not putting pressure on other parts of the roof. This one here, this is a hyperbolic paraboloid, which is a retreat center. This is a house I did for neighbors up here. This is a bridge. So these are seminars showing people the skills they were doing. A lady learning to run a chainsaw, some welding, and then we built this little bridge. We're cutting glass here. And then we're using a scythe instead of a weed eater. And here we're running a backhoe. And here we're building a stone wall. And then we're doing canning. And then we're teaching them how to graft trees. Now look at this. Yeah. Guess what I'm doing here? I'm growing redwoods. That's from a redwood burl. So you know what that is? I cut a little burl off of a tree. Now it's going to grow roots. And then when it grows the roots, I could plant it. Actually, I could grow 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 trees. But actually, I'll get one. I'll cut all the way except one, and that'll grow a redwood tree. And that's a burl. That's only about 2 weeks, 3 weeks old. And it was nothing. It was like a bud like this. See, now I cut 3 trees out of this cluster, and they're growing like crazy now. And every one of these clusters, we got to thin them like this. All right. You want to go up to big tree?
Let's do that.
I do this quite a bit, So this is a main water tank. See that orange on a string? Yeah. Tells me that it's down a quarter. Oh. So it's full from that line up. I put this road in.
You put the road in?
Oh, I put 5 miles of road in it, right up to the top of the mountain.
How?
With a D7 cat, a big tractor. Now, the blue line is the trees that need to be cut out. It makes sense. See that tree there?
Yeah.
It's competing in that one. Now, you take those 2 away, this thing will just love it, because then all the nutrients from those 2 will go into this one. Believe it or not, in 50 years, that tree will be 5 foot in diameter. And that little thing like that now, it's just amazing. See, now I have to take one of those 2 out. They're too close together. Here I have to take 2 out of here. I leave 2 and take 2 out. A lot of work needs to be done in the forest. Here I am, 91 years old. I'm talking about 2 lifetimes of work that I want to do. You know what? When I was building this road, the huge cat got off and almost tipped over, rolled down the hill. So I run a cable around here, and I pulled it up, and I couldn't get it back on the road, and I drove it right down there. See that? And my wife, I did it when she wasn't here. She would have freaked out. This is a mushroom hill. We gather mushrooms up here. Matsutake, chanterelles, porcini, boletus, hedgehogs, oysters, shaggy manes. They're all grown here. Now we clean this all up, this trail. You know that wood there, been sitting on the ground for 100 years? We cut that up on the mill. The most beautiful redwood in the world comes out of that log. That's all old growth redwood left over from the original logging. Oh, I bet I forgot my walking stick. Have I got a walking stick back there?
I don't see any walking stick.
Oh, darn. I need to find one. Just hang on.
No, it's up, yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay. So we're gonna break it and make a walking stick out of that. All right, I got me a walking stick. Let me tell you something really interesting. We got one big stump. We got a big tree here and a big tree here. You know what that tells me? There's water under here. There's water coming because there's 3 big trees all in a small area. There's a spring coming right up because these trees require like 300 gallons of water a day. And they're not going to get that much through fog. You know, I would never do it, but it would make one heck of a coffee table to cut this off right here and put a piece of glass on it. You know what this is, by the way?
No.
That's poison oak. But you know what? I'm going to get rid of that. I don't want it going there.
Don't get poison oak on your hand.
No, it doesn't bother me.
What?
I've eaten it.
You're immune at this point?
Yep, I'm immune to it. Oh, I was a kid and we were 12, 13 years old. So a couple of guys said to me, we'll give you 10 cents if you'll eat it. It was poison oak. I said, okay. So I munched on a leaf and they gave me 10 cents. I went and got her some ice cream. Now this hill is very hot, but you know, this hill will grow redwoods, but we got to get rid of the 50% of the tan oak. All of this brush is interfering. You want to cut this out, and this out. See, I saved that one. But actually, eventually, that would be the one tree you'd save out of this cluster. And that would be like this in 50 years. And these can be sold, the trees that you're cutting. But to get them out, the cost is, you're not going to make any money on it. But it might pay for doing the work. All the money that comes off of residual logging should go into fire protection. What's the use of trying to save the forest if you don't have fire protection? See, look, there's a Douglas fir, a big one. See, I would leave that because we need the shade. And then I'd get rid of this brush and plant redwoods all through there. And I'd have this whole mountain full of redwoods. I could do that. And if fire could come through, it wouldn't hurt anything. You'd have these big redwoods growing all along here. I mean, the vision is, if you could see in my brain what I see, you would say, wow, let's do it. What are we waiting for? This is madrone. Feel this. It's almost like skin. It sheds the bark every year.
Oh, nice.
See, now these are redwoods. If you thin this out, I already thinned it out somewhat, but these will grow into big trees eventually. It'll take 1,000 years before they grow into anything because they got to start building the soil to help the redwood grow. Redwoods make up their own soil over time. The young trees, the clones, the babies, are always much more healthier and bigger than the parent because they're building soil. The parents are building better conditions for the children than they had when they grew up.
Wow.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
You know, that's what humans should think about, to try to leave the earth better than what it was when they used it.
It's a different time frame. You're talking 1,000 years for those trees. It's a different way of looking at time, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you see, redwoods grow from prehistoric times. You know why they're so healthy? Because they have adaptability. They're hexaploids. They have double the chromosomes of most trees. That's why they're more adaptable to climate change. Look at how the bark peels off of that madrone. But if a fire came in here, it would be disastrous. It's just too much fuel there, and it would just blow the wind, and I mean, it would be just catastrophic.
So planting redwoods and all is a good fire prevention strategy.
Well, yeah, you know, there were fires in the forest for millions of years, and it goes through, it really doesn't hurt it because you don't have the ground fuel. How do you like this trail? You know, I did this when Vanna Ray was very, very sick. I did this by myself. She was sick for 10 years with chronic lymphatic leukemia. There's mushrooms here, chanterelles, every year, right in this area. Trumpets, little tiny bells. Cornucopias craternellus is the Latin name for them. Hang on.
You want an arm?
No, I'm okay. No? See, I got to lean uphill. That's why I use the stick.
Oh, you lean uphill.
See, I kind of lean that way in the stick. Right. Then I'm not. Now look, 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 come back here. Come back, this is big tree.
Oh, wow.
I didn't discover this until 2, 3, 4 years after we were here. There was no trail. Hello? Hello? How you doing? Yeah, how you doing? Come see.
What is this? I mean, it burnt?
Yeah, I got hit by lightning. No. It broke the tree in half and then it burned. The core burned until it got to the greenwood. And then the greenwood, it died.
Wow.
Isn't that something? Now you wonder how in the world that thing is not falling over or breaking. But I've come up in big winds and really amazed. This is hot. There was some huge fire in here when it burned this core out. And it burned until it got to the wet wood and then it died.
The lightning probably struck this a long time.
Oh yeah, we're talking this tree. I'll bet this tree is over 1,500 years old. That took a long time to grow a tree this size up here. Now look at this. You look at me right now. This is awesome. You can get a relationship between me and this tree. I'm nothing. I mean, look at the weight of this. I represent 1/10 of a millionth of a pound in relationship to this tree. You know, you look at the size. I don't represent anything. What am I? I'm nothing compared to this. Even though it's dead, it's got a magic of its own. It gives you appreciation of life, really, because life is so short, the human life. You know, we think we're so great. Well, look, this is something incredible. This gives us a kind of a footing. It gives us sort of a sense of belonging to the earth. Look how it's anchored to the earth. And, you know, we're a part of all this. This was a seed, a little tiny, tiny speck of a seed, and it grew into this big tree. Then it grew, and then it got burned, and the lightning hit it, and it dies. And finally, it'll tip over and die. Eventually, it's a cycle. We're all in a cycle. All right. Can you imagine at 91? I can't believe it myself.
No? Do you feel younger? How old do you feel?
I don't feel 91. I mean, I think of 91 as being in a wheelchair. I had a traveling nurse that was visiting me. She says, you're a perfect specimen for a 85-year-old or something, whatever I was at that time.
Oh, God.
Now, here's an interesting thing here. See, look there. See the fire? You guys, look at that. The fire burned that tree, And then the new shoot grew. And that from there up is a perfectly healthy tree. Well, there's so much. I love working in the forest. I could spend my whole life every day working in the forest to beautify the forest. I planted these firs here. Oh yeah. Oh, stupid. I didn't know. I should have planted redwoods. See, now these clusters need to be thinned out. One of those two, see the one saved is there, and then I've got marked out, over half of these need to be cut out. We got to go turn that water off. Okay. Otherwise we're going to lose all that water in that tank. There's just solar panels that run the pump, and that pump is amazing. 8 panels will fill that tank in 7 hours. We're gonna go eat some raspberries.
Oh, wow. And so this is just still going.
Yeah, we're gonna turn that off. There's a little garden here, just getting going on it. You gotta taste these. This is the best raspberry you ever tasted.
I want.
I've never had a raspberry better tasting than this one.
Oh my gosh. When did you plant these?
Oh, about 10, 15 years ago.
Did it take a lot of work?
Oh, you bet.
Yeah.
Everything takes work. You don't get anything for free. If you look into this mulch, I put a foot of that redwood needles every year on there. And the soils are just amazing that decomposed redwood does. It's a fire protection, scraping it away from the buildings, and then that goes into compost. I'm making compost out of this redwood needles. Redwood needles have a lot of nitrogen and a lot of minerals. What gives flavor to things is a mineral content.
So you just made sure you planted so you wouldn't have to go to the store. You had food here.
Well, see, now I freeze them. You know what I really like? I like ice cream with frozen berries. Look, you want to taste?
Berries are ready.
You got to taste these. They're awesome. Here.
Thank you.
You don't buy stuff like that. First of all, it's picked before it's really ripe for shelf life. Secondly, it's pushed with a lot of chemicals and a lot of water to get size.
When you first came to the land, were you planting right away?
There wasn't one fruit tree, there was nothing. Not one grape. I mean, we got kiwis, we got boysenberries, got raspberries, we got strawberries. It just goes on and on. We got chestnut trees.
Oh, they're still good.
Well, these are a little bit more sour. They're not as sweet. They're not quite ripe yet.
This is so nice.
Well, I come in here and believe it or not, I eat a cupful a day of raspberries. And then I freeze about a half a cup.
No.
I had to thin them out because I had too much fruit on it. That's Himalayan blackberry.
They just keep growing. You don't do anything.
Yeah, but I have to go through and prune them. There's a ton of work every year.
So you're out here every day, all day?
I'm 7 days a week, no birthdays, no holidays. Been doing this for 55 years. Every day's the same.
Then your body and your cognition for your age, they seem to be in quite a good shape. So
Well, you see, you're using it. The mind is like the body. If you don't use it, you lose it. You got to keep working. Let's go out in the orchard.
Let's do it. Okay. Well, that was a great snack.
Oh, isn't that something? It's a different life.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I gotta tell you,
Love
the eggs that we had with the chickens, goats, we made kefir, we made cheese. Kefir every day.
Really?
We had culture that came from Turkey that every day the kefir was thicker than thick cream. Just every day fresh goat cheese kefir. that was so delicious you couldn't imagine. Every day was a fresh batch. And the cheese, we had 40 pounds of cheese when we got rid of the goats. So these are persimmons. This is the Itachi, and that's the Fuyu. You know, I've got trees with 4 different kinds of pears. So we got water pipes that come from the river clear up here. We were actually running water from the spring way back where the water tank is, all the way. We were running 87 sprinklers at one time for 24 hours in the fall to water the Christmas trees. Christmas trees. This was all in Christmas trees, this whole area out here. And I'm gonna walk around so I can climb up on this fun. Now remember, I'm 91 years old. I'm not a spring chicken. This is an example of what it looked like back prior to the original logging. So we're coming up here on this tree, and this was probably one of the larger trees on the farm at the time. This is probably at the turn of the century when it was cut. And so this tree, actually I can even tell you, right here is a line where they cut it. I gotta get up here. Okay, now, you look, this tree was like this in diameter and like that. And when they cut this tree, then all of these little babies grew up, and they're called fairy rings. There was 1,000 little trees that grew up, and then the dominant ones of the little babies took over and kind of suppressed the smaller ones. And there's a little one trying to grow, trying to compete with the big one. Never gonna make it. We're looking at the babies, and they're probably 110 years old. So this tree, 55 years ago, it was that big. It was a little baby. 50 years it looks like this. Now just think, what's it gonna be like 50 years from now? It's gonna be like this. Without these trees, the whole life of the human life will not be the same. This is the air you breathe, this is the water you drink. It affects everything about life itself. So let's take these babies, and we'll take this one out. It has a blue line because it's competing with that one. But we're gonna leave that one. In fact, we're gonna leave most of these because we wanna keep the fairy ring and to give this a chance to grow into a big tree. It's a privilege to be able to be a part of something like this. Oh, by the way, here's something else. This is redwood sorrel. See this little clover looking thing? Cool. And guess what? It's edible.
Oh, so you can make a salad with it?
Yeah, it's a little bit sour. It's redwood sorrel. Look at this. Isn't that pretty? You know, the sound, I don't know if you feel it as I do, but that sound, it's mesmerizing almost. You know that goes on? It goes on day and night. It just doesn't quit. It's like me. It just goes on and on and on. We got 5 bridges. Now this one I bought for $1,000, and I hauled this from 3 miles down the road and put it in here. I jacked the whole bridge up 7 feet, and I had a big semi go, and I dropped it on the bed of the truck. It came out here, and I picked it up and dropped it on the ground, and then I drug it in here. That's how I got that bridge in. Wow. So we're coming up in an open meadow, and I want to show you what this property would be like 50 years from now if we do the care and giving to these trees that it's going to be needed for the next 50 years. these trees, there were 2 or 3 in this cluster, and these 3, you won't believe it. This tree, when we were here, was this big. 50 years ago, it was a baby. It was a little tiny little thing. And look what it is now. To plant a seed and watch it grow, that is almost spiritual. Because you take a redwood seed, it's the tiniest little tip of your finger, and you plant that seed, and what? You could end up a tree like this. It's actually, you're playing God. This is a winter apple, and they keep clear into spring. I didn't prune them this year, but anyway, there's so much work to do. I mean, it would take, I could use 50 people for 5 years to do the work that needs to be done on this place. But you know, we do what we can. We work within the limits that we have to work with, whether it's financial or whatever. Now, these tubs, those are Douglas fir I cut, and I'm collecting pine pitch for medicine. So let me show you. This is a pine pitch. Now, I just collected it. See, it's coming up out of here. See this? Wow. And that's medicine. Really? I use it on cuts and bruises and all kinds of stuff. Good. Yeah. No, it's a little bitter. It's not meant to be eaten.
But you put it on if you have a cut or something. Okay.
But you use it on cuts or... See, now it's coming up. I cut it, and this is all what would have gone into the tree. And so I'm collecting it. And I keep this covered to keep the dust from getting on it.
Okay.
Look at this. You know, you guys, you behave yourself. Quit fighting. I want you guys to be friends. I don't want you to be fighting.
Did you put these here?
Yeah. These are roots. See, redwood roots are very shallow. See, the tree trunk is there and there. So the root is very shallow. It doesn't have any taproot, but it goes out 30 feet. And the roots marry. See how they grow together. So instead of having a deep root, this whole thing is one big mass of dirt, and they marry among the trees. They'll go 30 feet away and match each other. Well, right here, like. And also here, see this? This is a root coming in here. This one here would make one awesome table right here. All these things have potential of being really fantastic coffee tables or big tables. This figure would be quite interesting. It's got an arm and sort of a head, and that with the moss on it and all. And this could be a leg. The glass could come right in through here, cut through here. This would be on top of the glass. This would be on top. Every one of these have potential. Now we're going to go and see one sculpture or two in the gallery that are new stuff that I'm just started doing. Now this is a coffee table made out of one of those roots. I haven't finished it. See, these are kind of like a slice of what was over there, but I made a sculpture out of it. Now, you see, this is really has a beautiful balance and no finish. This is just natural redwood. I really like this one. This is a beautiful shape and the wing, woo. Now, one of the most beautiful lines I got is this one right here. Look at this. I mean, this is just magical. the water, actually, for me, you know, people do meditating. I don't meditate. But I can sit here within seconds, I can fall asleep. It's mesmerizing. I find it spiritual. If there's anything in my life that's spiritual, is to sit here and look at the scenery and hear the water. Sometimes on a hot day, I'll spend a couple hours here. And, you know, I'll just sit here and just enjoy the air and the smell, and all the senses are being activated. See these ferns here? These are 5-finger ferns. You need a breeze coming through, and they're just like this. They're waving like this, and it's just, you see all these waves. It's just beautiful, and it's just so comforting to see this wave going on. The coloring, the green, it's very soft. It's very soothing. There's sort of, I can just sort of relax. Almost better than sleeping. See here, you don't hear any noises around or anything. It's isolation in a way. And the other thing is, you know this? This has been doing this for millions and millions of years.
Will this bridge last?
Oh, it'll be here another 20 years, but it needs some maintenance. So you know what I want to do, though? I wanted to build that concrete arch that you saw on my wall.
Yeah.
Right parallel to this. And that would be a concrete arch with precast panels, and it would be a beautiful bridge. It'd be here for 1,000 years. But I can't do it. I just don't have it in me anymore. You know, I have a timeline that I'm not going to live forever. Come on down here. Come take a look at this. I spent a year building this. The wall, I brought the stones down. That's redwood. Little poles.
Little pole. Oh.
But they're white, because it's all sapwood. But it's been treated with a wood preservative.
What a view it has.
That would be a beautiful little cabin. In fact, it's quite big, and there'd be plenty of room in there. The colors here, look at the textures of greens in here. Just, I mean, it's beautiful. This is all scaffolding. So when this is done, when you're sitting here, the boards go away. So basically you have a beautiful strip of sky. This seat, it'll have a table on a swing. You could cook a meal, and then the person could sit, and it'll swing the table over your lap. Now, I was thinking of having a second kitchen up there. So in the winter or something, you could still, and now this would be in glass and redwood poles. It'd be a vertical log cabin like.
Yeah.
And then all those needles need to be blown off the top.
Yeah.
So even for fire. Well, for fire, it's going to go. You're not going to protect that from fire. How hungry are you?
Oh, no, we'll be fine with whatever you have.
So I'll make plenty. That might be too old. I might get rid of that. Give it to my pet deer. Some of this lettuce is old. I got some good. If I have to, I'll go down and get a new head, but I think I have plenty here. We're going to use some of this. These are radishes tops.
Ah, what we saw earlier.
We're going to put that in there. in with our New Zealand lettuce. I'm going to need a bigger bowl, probably down below.
I can go get one.
The connect to the natural world is something everybody has to have because we're part of it. And if you don't connect to the natural world, you're missing something really big in your life.
Is this it?
Yeah, no, I think bigger than that.
How big is it? This is just outside. Is it in the cabinet inside?
Yeah, look around. I think there's one bigger one yet.
Okay, okay.
You have to connect to it. And most people don't even know how to connect. They don't know, have the opportunity to connect. I mean, they're just in limbo. I see, that's why the computer world, you get so engrossed with that, and that's not nature. That's a human development that's actually anti-nature. No, I found it. Yeah, okay. Well, see, I had it here. Now, I want those cut in half.
I'll do that. You want me to do that?
Can you do that?
Should I close this door, Charles? Are bugs coming in, or is it too late?
No, I don't
It's
care.
fine. Okay, okay.
Either way,
Bugs.
you can leave it
I just don't
open.
know if you're worried about the bugs sleeping tonight.
No,
Okay.
no, they won't bother me.
Okay. You don't have much electricity in here.
All solar, 4 residences. I got underground cables going to every building on them. You know, I don't use heavy appliances on it. In laundry, I do it when the sun's out and I can run a washing machine, no problem. I got a freezer going 24 hours a day on solar. This will all go out the door. The deer will eat it.
Okay. Just right here?
Yeah, just throw it up. Throw it up. No, just right in there. He'll come right down and get it tonight. See, now this...
I'm so close. You just...
yeah, so now this is going to go... cut these in half.
Okay.
I usually grow broccolini, and they go year-round. And then you just take them off for a whole year, and you don't have to replant it. I got tons of this New Zealand spinach. So
What is New Zealand spinach?
it's a hot weather spinach.
Okay.
It grows like a weed. You never have to replant it. I've got to get a lid on this.
I don't know if I'm helping anymore. Do you want me to squeeze the lemon yet, or should we wait?
Yeah, squeeze it.
fine? Okay.
Now you want to really mix that up.
Okay. We can change
We'll go
it.
down, knead down at the glass house.
I mean, I like both places, but the view here.
It's more contained.
Yeah.
Over there, you're kind of out in the open.
Yeah, yeah.
This gives you a contrast to what's out there. I like it. You kind of feel safe. You feel kind of sheltered.
Yeah, I do.
I mean, this whole place is magical. So I think we're all set.
Okay.
Okay, heading down.
It looks great.
Now this is a flashlight. You never have to change the battery. In fact, it's rechargeable. One thing, I need a match.
Yeah.
We're gonna have one little candle for ambiance here. I would light the fireplace, but it's too much trouble. All right, look at that. We got a little candlelight. I forgot to bring some bread down. I usually eat bread. We used to do 52 loaves of bread in 1 month. Voila.
Help yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Half will be plenty. See, outside there, you know what you're seeing? There's bats flying around because there's mosquitoes around that pond. We're a part of nature, and we're in the cycle, and we're part of the whole thing. And so I'm not afraid of death. I see it as going to sleep. I mean, I can't think of anything more pleasant. So what's wrong with that? We're not alone. The plant life, the animal life, the weather, everything has its own place. I never realized it till now in my older sort of end of life. I never realized how much and all the stuff I got to do. You know what? I've lived a full life. I've done so much. I don't know where the energy comes from, but I just can't quit.